cryptocurrency. Anyone can see your transactions and trace everything back to you.
What?
Anyone. So if you're thinking about using one of the cryptocurrency wallets in the App Store, think twice, because your transactions are not private. Now, I'm not an expert in cryptocurrency. Actually, I'm trying to get into the cryptocurrency. I want to explore. So I download one app and try to add $20. And as soon as I add the $20, the app try to connect me with different services that I can use to put US dollars back to the wallet in cryptocurrency. And what it surprised me, it was that these middleman services that can transfer US dollars to crypto, they were asking my name, my full name, my address, my phone number, and then asking me my social security. And I say, this is a lot of information just to transfer money to crypto. Even one of the services asked me to give access to my phone camera and microphone. How crazy is that? Why do you want access to my camera and my microphone? What that has to do with money?
Seriously, what the
Crazy. And then I put something on YouTube, like looking for privacy, and I got hit with this video where this guy that I don't know the name, but I know the name of the app. The app is called Samurai Wallet, right? And the craziest thing is that the US government closed this app because the money that the cryptocurrency that you put there, it was truly private. The what? So not only that, they put the guy, the developer, in jail. What? I don't get it. I mean, that's not, I don't get it. Also, he create a safe app where your crypto can be safe, and the US government didn't like that. So anyways, I'm not worried about right now about the government, but that video puts me in a research mode, right? And so I went ahead and used Notebook LM to do a research on how public are the cryptocurrency transactions, and it turns out that is very, very, very public. Anyone can see your transactions, and anyone can trace those transactions back to you. So I'm not worried about the government. The government is gonna do their thing. I'm worried about the criminals, the people that want to, scam you and steal your information. That's what I'm worried here. So go ahead, watch the video. This video is gonna be long. It's in podcast format, and it will tell you exactly how this crypto wallet works. Okay, the audio, it lasts 14 minutes, so it's gonna be long. So whenever you have time, go ahead and watch it. I hope it will be helpful for you.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a stack of articles you sent over on open source intelligence, crypto forensics, and the latest tracing technologies.
Right.
We are looking at a world that a lot of people think of as completely invisible cryptocurrency.
Mm-hmm.
And we're really asking, What is the true nature of crypto privacy? And how are investigators, shattering that popular illusion of anonymity?
It's a big question. Our mission today is to really analyze the systematic techniques that let investigators link those pseudonymous wallet addresses back to real-world identities.
Okay.
We're going to explore the core heuristics, the analytical tricks they use, and more importantly, the so what. What does this all mean for anyone using these decentralized networks?
Let's start with the basics then. The groundwork. OSINT, open source intelligence.
Right.
In simple terms, this is just software and methods for collecting and analyzing information from, publicly available sources.
And that's the key. It's all public.
Yeah, we're not talking about cracking encryption here. We are talking about connecting dots that are already out there in the open.
Exactly. And OSINT is critical, but before we even get there, we have to deal with a core problem, which is the ledger itself.
Wait, okay, if the ledger is totally public, why did we ever think it was private? What was the original misunderstanding there?
That is the core misconception right there.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are anonymous.
Not.
They're absolutely not anonymous. They're pseudonymous.
Mm.
And that distinction, that single word, that's everything. It changes the entire game. Meaning, okay, you generate a wallet address, that's a long string of numbers and letters, it doesn't have your name on it.
Sure.
But, and this is the vulnerability, the entire history of every single transaction for that address is recorded permanently on a public, decentralized, and transparent blockchain ledger.
And anyone can see it.
Anyone. That's the leakage point. Even without a name, I can see transaction timestamps, spending patterns, and often network metadata.
Like IP addresses.
And all of that can be analyzed to link that string of code back to a real person.
So the history is just sitting there waiting for one little slip up to flip the switch from pseudo-identity to real identity. And this is where external entities come in.
That's exactly right. The link isn't usually made on the blockchain alone. It relies on data from third parties.
Like crypto exchanges.
Precisely. Exchanges have to follow strict anti-money laundering, or AML, and know your customer KYC regulations.
Right, and we're assuming most of our listeners know what KYC is, but the implication here is huge. That KYC data, your name, your address, your ID, that's the pivot point.
It's the Achilles heel.
Exactly. If your pseudonymous wallet ever touches a regulated exchange that has your KYC file, the game is over. Your entire history is no longer anonymous. It's a fully traceable timeline for law enforcement.
And that's the so what. Once they know just one address belongs to, say, Jane Doe, because she cashed out on a KYC exchange, the challenge changes.
It's no longer who is this?
Right. It becomes, how do we find the hundreds, maybe thousands of other addresses Jane Doe also controls, but which never touched that exchange?
And that brings us right to the heart of blockchain forensics. Address clustering.
Yes. This is the foundational technique. The whole goal is to group multiple wallet addresses together that are highly likely controlled by the same person.
And how do they do that? With math, I assume.
With mathematical assumptions, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They're called heuristics. And the most famous one everyone starts with, is the common input ownership heuristic.
Okay, let's break that down. Common input ownership. What's the assumption there?
It's actually pretty simple. If two or more addresses are used as inputs for the same transaction, they must be controlled by the same user.
Why?
Because to send that transaction, you have to possess the private keys for all of those inputs to sign off on it. Just like you need the key to open two different safes, you need the private keys for both addresses. So they must belong to you.
But I feel like that's where the arms race begins. That heuristic, it's not a guarantee, is it?
It's not. And people intentionally try to defeat it.
Right, with things like CoinJoin.
Exactly. CoinJoin intentionally mixes inputs from a bunch of different unrelated users into one big transaction. It's a cryptographic smokescreen designed specifically to break that assumption.
So when that simple heuristic fails, analysts need something more.
They do. And that brings us to the second key technique, the change address heuristic.
Okay.
So with something like Bitcoin, you can't partially spend a coin. You have to spend the whole input.
Right.
So any leftover value, the change, has to be sent back to an address that the sender controls.
And analysts can spot that change address. How?
They look for specific patterns.
Yeah.
For instance, if a transaction has two outputs and one is a nice round number like 0.5 BTC, but the other is some messy irregular number like 0.2916433 BTC.
The messy one is probably the change.
Very likely, yes. Or they look for an amount that converts perfectly into a round fiat number like exactly $100. That's human behavior. And it suggests both addresses, the payment and the change, belong to the same entity.
It gets really interesting when you combine these, though. Our sources mention an advanced tool called BACH.
Right. Bitcoin address clustering based on multiple heuristics.
So what does BACH do differently?
BACH's whole premise is that relying on a single heuristic is too easy to beat. So it combines the multi-input heuristic, the change address identification, and a third one, coin-based transaction output grouping.
Whoa, okay, that's a new one. What is that?
So a coin-based transaction is the first transaction in a new block. It's how miners get their reward. When a big mining pool gets that reward, they often split it up and distribute it across many addresses they control. This heuristic assumes all those addresses receiving fresh funds from the same Coinbase transaction belong to the same entity, the mining pool.
So that gives investigators a huge, clean, and identifiable starting cluster. It's like a big identity anchor.
A massive anchor, yes, from which they can trace where all those new coins go.
Yeah.
And what's really innovative about BACH is that it helps you visualize all this. It can create a 3D graph of the cluster's internal structure.
Which I imagine lets you spot connections you'd never see in a spreadsheet.
Absolutely. When you see it visualized, it looks less like a database and more like this giant organic nervous system. And that visual structure helps analysts spot very specific malicious patterns.
Like the peeling chain.
Exactly.
That sounds sophisticated. What is a peeling chain?
It's classic high-level money laundering. Think of it like peeling an onion. A transaction happens, usually one input, two outputs. A small amount, a thin layer, gets peeled off to the recipient.
Yeah, and the rest?
The rest, the huge bulk of the funds, is immediately sent to a brand new, unused address that the sender still controls.
Okay.
And then they repeat the process again and again.
So the goal isn't to hide the transaction, but to create a super long and confusing trail back to the original source.
Precisely. We see it in major cases. There was a Department of Justice filing about North Korean co-conspirators using these exact peel chains. They moved massive amounts of stolen Bitcoin through a sequence of addresses A to B, B to C, C to D over days, just to obscure the trail. And yet these tools can spot that structure.
Still, even with all these tools, the real breakthroughs, linking a cluster to an actual person, that comes from fusing this on-chain data with off-chain intelligence. This is where OSINT really comes into its own.
Yes. The goal of the off-chain work is to build a complete digital fingerprint of the person controlling that cluster.
So you start with things like metadata correlation analysis.
Right. You're systematically collecting data across platforms, looking for patterns. Is the wallet only active from 9 to 5 GMT? Does that line up with device fingerprints or known VPN usage?
And then you layer on top of that behavioral profiling and stylometric analysis.
Yeah, you're looking at writing style, vocabulary, the timing of posts.
Right.
If the wallet owner posts a really verbose, grammatically complex threat on a forum, you might be able to trace that same style back to your public social media, even under a different name.
And the level of detail is, frankly, chilling. I mean, advanced image forensics, it's not just about XIF data anymore.
Not at all.
They're using AI for facial recognition, even if a face is partly hidden. They're using object recognition to link photos. I read that analysts are even looking at reflections in a subject's eyes or on a shiny surface to identify the room they're in.
And this whole layering process is powered by some really sophisticated OSINT tools.
Like Maltego.
Maltego is a great example. It's a visual platform. You plug in a crypto address or an IP, and it automatically draws these interactive graphs showing you connections to domains, social media profiles, everything. It maps the on-chain cluster to the off-chain world.
Then you've got something like Shodan, which is basically a search engine for everything connected to the internet, not just websites.
Right, so you can find vulnerable servers, routers, webcams. It helps you trace suspicious network traffic back to its physical source, which you can then timestamp against a transaction.
And to make sure all this evidence holds up, there's Hunchly.
Hunchly is crucial for evidence preservation. It just works quietly in the background, automatically capturing and timestamping every single web page an investigator visits, creating a court-ready, verifiable record.
So when you put it all together, you have this fusion of blockchain heuristics and advanced OSINT that lets law enforcement go from a pseudonymous cluster to a real-world identity. They track the fraud, and then they wait.
They wait for the cash-out point, usually at an exchange that has to comply with KYC.
This whole thing, it just fuels an incredible arms race. As the forensics get better, the criminals have to get more creative.
Constantly. They're always developing new obfuscation techniques.
You've got the classic mixing and tumbling services, of course. But the more advanced actors are using chain hopping.
Chain hopping is when you quickly exchange one crypto for another. So you swap Bitcoin for a privacy coin like Monero, and then maybe back again. You're trying to leverage different privacy features to break that continuous transaction graph the analysts rely on.
But the privacy community is building real technical defenses too, like Dandelion and Dandelion plus plus.
Right, those are network layer defenses. Instead of broadcasting a transaction to everyone nearby, Dandelion passes it along from node to node for a bit first. It's a way to hide the original IP address that sent the transaction.
And we're also seeing modern services build privacy right into their tech. Some use Darkwing tech to constantly change the sender's IP during a transaction, and they only ever use single-use addresses.
It makes that basic clustering we talked about much, much harder.
And looking forward, there are proposals like silent payments.
Silent payments could be a game changer. It uses some clever crypto to generate a brand new, unique receiving address for every single transaction, automatically. There's no address reuse on the public ledger, which could make clustering almost impossible.
But even with all these advances, the privacy they offer can be surprisingly fragile.
It can be. Studies on Dandelion, even on the Lightning Network, show that they can offer poor anonymity under certain conditions.
How poor are we talking?
Well, there was one study on the Lightning Network. It found that an adversary who controlled as little as 1% of the influential nodes could fully de-anonymize about 50% of all transactions.
Wow. 50%.
Yeah. It just shows that when a network needs open information to function efficiently, that openness can be used to betray the user's privacy.
And sometimes the ultimate point of failure isn't the tech at all. It's human error or just bad security.
Absolutely. Off-chain failures are devastating.
And we have the perfect chilling example of that, the Ledger data breach back in July 2020. This wasn't a crypto failure, it was a database security failure. Someone got unauthorized access to their marketing database and just walked out with the names, emails, phone numbers, and physical home addresses of over 270,000 customers.
And that PII leak created an immediate, incredibly dangerous link. Suddenly you have a public list of people who own crypto along with their home addresses. It was a perfect target list for phishing attacks and, frankly, physical threats.
So what we've seen today really confirms it. The battle for crypto privacy is constantly escalating. Anonymity on a public blockchain is largely an illusion, and it's shattered not by cracking crypto, but by this meticulous combination of math heuristics like common input ownership and sophisticated OSINT that just hunts for human patterns.
Yeah, successful de-anonymization is less about a single magic tool and more about an iterative process. It's about fusing data, gathering intelligence, analyzing patterns, visualizing connections in a tool like Maltego, and then cross-referencing all that on-chain data with off-chain context, whether that's KYC records or just a stray social media post.
And this leaves us with a provocative thought for you. We've established that compliance regulations, specifically KYC, are the primary tool investigators have for tracing illicit funds. But as these advanced privacy technologies like silent payments get better, making that fundamental address clustering exponentially harder, will the tech for de-anonymization eventually be outpaced by privacy by design? And if it is, will regulators be forced to find entirely new, off-chain mechanisms just to maintain any kind of compliance? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.